Hello everybody, it's Speedrun here and welcome to the Ultimate 3D course. This is the second episode. We are going to learn the basics and setup. Let's get started with Maya. First and foremost, we need to create a folder. We're using this project windows right here. In Maya, you go to File and choose Project Window. Right now, we need to set a folder. This folder or project name, I will call it the Ultimate 3D course. I'm setting the location to the desktop of my computer right here. After I hit accept, it will create all these folders in this folder called the Ultimate 3D course. Now I go ahead and click accept. If I drive to my desktop, now you can see a folder has been created with the name I have chosen, and inside I have all these folders that are actually empty. As well, I have here the workspace.mel. All right. Once we have done that, every single time we load Maya, he will straight away search for that folder. Otherwise, every single time we load even a saved file or saved scene, it will actually try to search somewhere else. That will make our workflow much slower. We have set up the folder. Now we need to save a scene. As you can see, the scene will be saved right here inside scenes folder from our The Ultimate 3D course. Let's give a name to this and call it to basics and setup. Now we have a file inside our scenes folder called basic and setup. If by any means Maya crashes, we can simply open from here and continue our work. Perfect. Let's learn a little bit of the basics here in Maya first. Afterwards, we are going to 3ds Max and also learn a little of the basics. I suggest you to follow along on your computer and repeat what I'm doing so you will get used to navigate around Maya and 3ds Max. If we press spacebar, you will notice that few windows has been created. If I press spacebar where I am with the mouse at, that window will actually become full screen. Perfect. Now I know that I can pick different windows by pressing spacebar. All right. As well, if I click and hold spacebar plus left click, I can choose between perspective view, left view, or any other views. If I release, it will just disappear that menu. As well, if I right click, it will give me other options. And this right click is very useful when you have objects in the screen. Now you might be looking at, oh, you have outliner here, but I don't. That's because you need to toggle this option right here so you can display the outliner. An outliner is basically your layers where all the objects in the scene will be here, as well lights for rendering purpose or whatever you add to the scene will display it right here. I'll leave the outliner open as well. If you move screens around like this, or let me try to move the outliner out here, and then you move something else here and it just gets messy. What you can do is go to the upper part here and reset current workspace. So it will reset to the default. Now you might be looking at that I am showing vertices, edges, faces, triangles, and UVs here. This is very important for us to keep track on how many polygons or faces our 3D models have it. If you are interested to display this, it's very easy. All you got to do is to go display, heads up display, and pick this poly count option right here. Once you do that, you can actually see all your poly counts. All right, let me give you an example. If I hit on under the, here has curves and here has poly modeling, here have a cube. If I click on the cube, a cube has been created. Now you can see that the cube is selected and is displaying for me 8 vertices. Okay, so vertices, if I right click now on the object, I can select between edges, vertex, face, and face. All right, let's count here how many lines I have here on the edges. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you can see here that edges are 12, and that's how it's getting the information from to this window right here. Vertices are 8, and let's have a look here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the vertex is counted as 8, and that goes right here on the vertices. Faces are 6. So if I right click and select face, I can pick here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 faces. Let's keep our models within 1,500 faces just to be safe in Ragnarok Online later on. Great, we have learned this. Now we have to learn how to navigate, and I hope you're following along on your computer so later you remember what is going on here. To navigate around here, it's very easy. We have to hold Alt and the middle mouse button to pan around like this. Okay, you can see here I have used Alt and middle mouse button. You can follow what's showing up here in case you don't understand what I'm saying. Next, we can choose Alt and the left click to zoom, to rotate the camera like this, and left and right click to zoom in and zoom out. As well, you can just simply use the middle mouse wheel to zoom in and zoom out. All right, let's learn how to move this object around the scene now. Basically, it's very easy with the shortcuts. If you press W, you will notice that it moves from here to here, and that is actually the moving tool. And these are the axis or the handle or the anchor point whatever you want to call, or also known as manipulator. You can, just like in Browedit, move your object around. If you go to the rotation tool here, you can also press E, and now you can rotate the object like that. If I hold Shift, let me try Control. Just a moment. I remember there's a way to rotate perfectly, and it's already set here for some reason that every time I rotate it goes 5 by 5. There's a way to rotate it in different numbers, like 1 by 1. I just don't remember exactly where to change that, but there is an option. As well, we can manually type here, for example, 1, and it's gonna rotate just 1 or 160. Okay, so you can go with a manually rotation that right there. And we have, of course, the scale option right here. So if you press W, E, and R, those are the shortcuts for these three very important tools. Now I can scale from the center. I can Ctrl Z. If I want to redo, I Ctrl Y, Ctrl Z, Ctrl Y, Ctrl Z. All right. I can scale up, side, or like this. As well, I have this way to scale it. So it will pick both handles right here to scale consistently in the direction that I want, as you can see. All right, let's return a few steps. Now I'm going to show you the inputs of this object, and this works for any other basic shapes right here. If I go to the input right here where you see my mouse at and click on Polycube, I have several options. Number one, width, so I can drag here. All right, now you notice if I move this way, it does not change the width here, but it changed the scale here. I can also move the height and the depth. Okay, like this. Hopefully you're following along. Now let's go to the subdivision, width, height, and depth. They are basically giving you divisions on your 3D model. Just like that. Let's press W and move this to the side. Now we are going to create a ellipse shape. Just show you that you have different options here. However, you can make it more or less polygons, and you can see changing here the faces where you need to keep your eyes at. And later on, when we have different shapes, for example, if I hold Shift and drag, I will make a copy of this 3D. And later, when I combine them, you can see that the faces are increased a lot more here. The total faces in this composition is 128. If I select these two, it's showing on this side that are 48 faces. Great. Now let's use a little bit of the right click to understand a little bit more on how it works. If I right click and go edges, let's use for this example our cube. I'll pick the center edge, so right click, edge, and here are the center. Now remember, when you right click, you need to keep holding it so you can pick something here. Once you release, it's gonna pick whatever your mouse is at. Now I can move this up and down like this. As well, if I actually press B, it's going to open a brush tool. And what that does is basically selecting a bigger range of my selection. For example, if I hold B and drag, okay, let's hold B. Here we go. So if I drag left and right, you can see that this increases and decreases. This is the brush size. And now if I actually move, you can see it's creating a nicer shape right here. Very symmetric. And we can play around to build something cool with it. As you can see, it already looks like a cave. Now let's show the face. So if I go to face, you can see that my brush tool is turned on. So if I click B, it's turned off. And I can select any of this as well. If I want to select over one face, I need to hold Shift so I can select it. Or there's another option. I can hold Tab and select just like that. It's very easy and convenient way to do as well when you have a lot of faces to be selected. All right, knowing that, now I want to select this amount of faces here and hold Shift. Now I can actually extrude this either in or out. However, if you go in, it's basically creating extra faces here and messing up a little bit. So that's not what we want. If you extrude in Maya, you want to extrude out. Like this, you don't have the overlapping faces. Okay. Let's test as well by selecting the opposite side. And now you can see I have selected both sides. And I want to extrude perfectly both sides at the same time. I can use the R option for the scale. This one right here. And I can hold Shift and extrude this way as well. So both sides will have a perfect measure just like that. Cool. Now we are learning a little bit on how to model, and that's the subject for the next class. I think you got a little bit of the idea. I want you to play around with all these shapes. Okay. Now I need to teach you a few more things. The layers that will be set right here, it's very different than the outliner. In the outliner, I can basically select all my models and press Ctrl G. What that will do is actually group my models. So once I press in the group, I can actually scale all of them at the same time, or I can move all of them like this. And if I want ungroup, I can actually open this group, select all of them, and with the middle mouse, drag them out of the group. So the group will be destroyed like this. All right. Let's delete all of these shapes and create another cube. This is very important for Ragnarok as well. Everything that I'm saying here, it's really important if you want master yourself and create beautiful maps in the future with your own custom 3Ds. This is a very fun thing if you actually need to model a door or a barrel or a chest, whatever you really want to model, you can do it with the basic shapes. However, what I want to show you right now is like that our handle or our manipulator, it's centered to our 3D model right here. Okay? I want this manipulator to be down here actually. So let's click D. What D will do is to actually unlock the movement of this manipulator. And now we need to snap this manipulator into place where it's perfect aligned at the bottom. And how to do that? You hold D to unlock and you press V to actually say I want snap to the vertices. And now you can see once I release, the model has been snapped into the vertices. If I zero out here on our cube properties, you can see it's still centering like this, and that's not what I want. I want the model to be centered at the top on the grid. This time, without pressing D, I'm just going to press X, and what that will do is to snap into the grid right here, as you can see. All right, this is the two features that you must learn into the 3D world. However, if I press here and zero out, still going to the center, how can I actually do it to make this part right here the center of my 3D? It's very simple. Now you can see the translate Y, it's 0.5, and we need to zero out this, and that's why we have this freeze transformation right here at the top. Once I click on the freeze transformation, you can see that now this is the center of our 3D model. And Ragnarok Online uses this to actually know how to animate your model. For example, if I animate this 3D now and I want to rotate it, it will rotate like this and like this on the animation. And this is really, really important. Okay? Let's now go ahead and try to reset the pivot. All right, to reset the pivot, you need to go to Modify and Center Pivot. Like this, you will be centering your pivot. Great. Now that you know these basics, we can actually go ahead to the second last explanation before we end this video. And that's about creating another cube, okay? And pressing G, you will realize that another cube has been created. If I move anywhere else and press G again, another cube has been created. That's because G is the meaning to redo your last step, okay? So basically, there are several options in Maya to press G and just save you time later on. I'll quick show you example here on the edges. If I click on the edge and on our right side menu, you have this option, Modeling Toolkit, okay? If you're actually not seeing one of these menu, you can press Ctrl A a few times and should be showing to you. Now I have selected edge. I can click bevel and that will bevel for us. Now if I click on the other 3D and choose edge and I press G, you will realize that bevel the exactly same way for us again. So G is a very nice feature here in Maya. Will save you a lot of time for all sort of situations. Now I want to show you the wireframe here in Maya, and we can proceed to go to layers. So layer is actually under channel box layer editor. All right, let's go and show the wireframe or display wireframe. Right now you can see that it looks really cool, and we can select the model like this or like this or both of them together, or we can hold shift and select both of them. But wireframe is helping you to actually pick a face and know that you're selecting where you want to select. We don't really use this feature, okay, for modeling for Ragnarok Online. We are dealing with low polygons, but it's something that you need to understand that is possible. All right. Now we can also turn on shadows on this option right here. And the option next to, so wireframe, this will just display the color of your shade. And here we'll display the texture. There are no textures yet, so this feature will be useless at the moment. Now the shadow feature is a cool feature for us to preview a little bit nicer. However, it will take you a little bit more of your CPU to render this. If your computer has enough RAM, you should be just fine. Now we can go ahead and talk about layers as well. I shouldn't miss that if you press Z, let me have a look, F, and actually in 3ds Max would be Z. This means you frame into the model. For example, I am right here, far away, and I don't want to zoom in and drag and zoom in and drag, right, to find my 3D model. Basically, I want to select a model, press F, so I frame straight on the model. And now my rotation will be on that 3D model. Let's say I am out here, and now I'm rotating on this 3D model, and I decide to select this face, and now I'm still rotating around this 3D model, so I can just press F and you will see frames to our 3D model, and I can now rotate like that. It's a very helpful feature. Let's return a few steps and talk about the layers so we can end up the tutorial for this section here in Maya. All right, layers. I can click here to create a layer. I can double click on the layer, choose a color if I want to, and I can name this layer to whatever I would like. Layer 1. Now remember, there is no spacing allowed, so layer 1 3D. Okay, just call whatever you want. We're just testing out. All right, I can click here, nothing happens. Is because there is nothing in this layer yet, and we need to add things to the layer. If I click in here and select this 3D model, I can right click on the layer and add selected objects. Now that this object is in this layer, I can hide it. As well, if I just want to work on this object, I can press Shift 1. Control 1, excuse me. So Control 1 will actually hide everything else and only pick what is selected, as you can see. So it's perfect when you are working with just these two objects and you don't want to mess it up with something else. Then this is a very useful feature. Either you can hide by adding on a layer or just using Control 1. Okay. As well, you can click on the last option here. We'll have a T. That is probably transparency. And we'll have R. If you are on either one, you actually cannot select the model at all. All right, if I remove the option of R here, now I can select the 3D model once again. All right, this was pretty much it for Maya at the moment. If there is anything else, I will return here, but let's move to 3ds Max. 3ds Max has 4 views as well. And for 3ds Max, I need to click Alt W to actually pick the window I want to look at. Here, to create a shape is a little different. I actually need to go to Box, under Standard Primitives, so plus sign, this first circle right here, and then Box. So I will click and drag to the way I want and drag it up, right? And I can create as many shapes I want with that. Now I can also change the same way I could change in Maya, segments. You might not be able to see it, but we can actually change the default faces. Let me see if I can show the wireframe. Here's the wireframe. And now we can see that when I increase the segments, there are actually showing more segments there. So basically the same thing as Maya. I can set 10 by 10 by 10, and I have a perfect cube. All right, and I can return here to default shading. So now I want to go to this option right here at the top, where is the modifiers. All right, and I can press W, E, and R to also move the objects around. But to move the pivot point is a little more annoying. So there is an option right at the top here for the pivot point, which is effect pivot only. And I can move the pivot, or actually the shape. And I can return this option, and now the shape will move around this point. But it's a bit annoying to do all this in 3ds Max. I just want to show you that it's possible. I have been using 3ds Max before, and so effect pivot only, then this is an option to snap, and you can actually snap the pivot points here into the edges, just like you can see now. And you can left click to show where you want to snap the pivot point. It's just, I found to be really annoying. So I use Maya to do everything, and I use 3ds Max to do the final step only, which is convert to Ragnarok Online. Okay, so you can also come here and play around. Before, I used to model everything in 3ds Max, but I just found way easier to create UVs, to model shapes in Maya. Okay, so I hope you understand that. You can be specialized in 3ds Max if you want, but with my experience, it's just not worth for Ragnarok Online, okay? When we get to the UVs, you understand why I picked Maya to be my first priority 3D modeling software. Great. We have reached to very pretty cool moment of our basics and setup here. I hope you enjoyed this first class. Follow along with me because things are going to get way more intense. However, it might sound or looks overwhelming, but it's not. You just need to practice a little bit. This is really just scratching surface, just the tip of the iceberg. We are going to get in more details, and when you see it, it's just like riding a bicycle. You learn once and this become part of your life, and you can do a lot of things with it. All right, I hope you enjoy really this first tutorial. Smash the like if you made it until here, and smash that subscribe if you want me to continue creating more contents like this. Thanks so much. Speedrun is staying here. Bless you all, and I'll see you on the next episode. Bye bye.